We exist only to seek beauty. Everything else is merely waiting. These are not empty words. They are an invitation, a subtle summons to step away from the clamor of the world and enter the quiet sanctuary of your own soul. This is not a lecture. In history, you will not be fed dates, facts, or tributes to a man long departed. Instead, you will hear the living voice of a soul that still speaks, not from earth or dust, but from a flame that has never dimmed. This is a passage into the sacred, into a language that does not inform, but transforms. These words will not explain life to you. They will uncover it. They will not define your soul. They will stir it awake for the next hour. We will not simply read Khalil Gibran. We will feel him. We will rest in his silence and allow his poetry to move through us like wind through an open room, gentle yet impossible to ignore. Gibran's words are not understood by the intellect. They are remembered by the heart, as though we have always known them, as if they were waiting for this very moment to stir something timeless within us. So breathe, slow down, let your spirit come forward. The candle is lit, the pages are unfolding, and the voice without beginning or end is ready to speak when love calls. To you, follow though his path is steep and harsh. These are the opening lines of Khalil Gibran's meditation on love, not as comfort, but as fire. In a world that so often disguises love as indulgence, Gibran restores it as sacred, fierce, transformative. It is not here to grant your whims, but to burn away illusions. Not here to soothe your ego, but to awaken your soul. And this truth unsettles us because we crave love that is safe. But Gibran teaches that true love is never safe. It is real. It does not indulge our hunger for certainty. It fulfills our deeper hunger for transformation, and transformation is never without pain. In the Prophet, he cautions that if all you seek is love's pleasure, you would be better never crossing its threshold at all. He writes, "Love gives not but itself, and takes not but from itself. Love owns not, nor will it be owned, for love is enough unto love." This is no language of possession or demand. It is a call to love that asks for nothing in return. A love that is its own reason, not validation, not control, not refuge. This kind of love is rare because it is not an exchange. It is a flame. Most of us love conditionally. We say, "I love you because you make me feel whole," or "I love you as long as I feel seen, cherished, secure." But Gibran unmasks this as ego clothed in romance. His vision of love is not grounded in need. It is rooted in reverence. Love here is not a person to hold tight. It is a presence to serve. It is not what you take. It is what you give, not from lack, but from overflowing. Love is not about two halves completing each other. It is about two complete souls walking together side by side, not as fragments, but as sacred reflections. He writes, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you." This space, this holy distance matters. It is where individuality breathes unconsumed by closeness. Into me is the understanding that even in love we are not possessions of one another. We belong to something deeper, something greater, and true love recognizes this. It grants the soul room to breathe. Yet, we fear space, don't we? We confuse it with distance. We misread it as rejection. But Gibran reminds us that space is not the end of love. It is its safeguard. Without space, love turns suffocating. Without it, love rots into dependency. The ache that comes with love is no accident. It is initiation. Gibran writes, "Even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you, even as he is." for your growth, so is he for your pruning. This is no metaphor, this is spiritual law. When love arrives, it does not linger only at the surface. It descends to your roots, it unsettles all you cling to, all that is false, all that is fearful, and in shaking it loose, it makes room, it hollows you out, so that you may be filled with what is real. This is why love and pain so often walk hand in hand, because only what you love holds the power to wound you, and only in heartbreak do you finally learn what it means to be truly open-ended. That breaking something sacred stirs the self you imagined crumbles, the roles you gripped, the masks you hid behind all fall away. And what's left is stillness, honesty, a presence you had forgotten. This is what Gibran longs for us to see. Love does not ruin it, refines it, strips away the illusions we built for shelter, and reveals the soul we buried beneath them. It is not cruelty, it is mercy, the kind of mercy that does not shield you from the flame, but moves beside you through it. He writes, "Think not, you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course." This is a call to surrender, not to another person, but to love's own mystery, to release the belief that we can decide who arrives, who remains, who departs, and instead to see that our task is only to love when love is present and blessed. When it fades, because in the end no one is ours, not our partners, not our children, not even ourselves. All belongs to love, and love belongs to God. There is a fierce simplicity in this. Gibran is not asking us to abandon relationships, but to purify them, to stop turning them into cages, to stop binding each other with fear disguised as affection, to stop using love as control or identity, and instead to love in reverence, to love as prayer, love not from need but from knowing that the one beside you is a soul walking their own holy road, that your role is not to own them but to witness them, walk alongside them, and when the moment comes, release them with gratitude, not grasping. This is the heart of Gibran's vision. Love is not mere emotion. It is a pilgrimage. It is the hardest, most dangerous, and most breathtaking path you will ever walk. It is the path that will unveil your shadows and ask you to bless them. The path that will bring you low, not to adore another, but to touch the ground of your own humility. The path that, if you allow it, will carry you not into another person, but into your own being. So let us ask ourselves now, not who do I love, but how do I love? Do I love with fear, with demands, with attachment, or do I love as the sun shines freely, without asking, without claiming to love? As Gibran teaches, is not simple, it is terrifying, because it means stepping willingly into the fire, yet only in that fire can the false be burned away, and only from those ashes can the soul remember what it has always been light. So if you are in love, let this be your guide. If you are wounded by love, let this be your healing. And if you have never truly loved, then let this moment be the opening of your heart to something vaster than yourself. Something sacred, something that will demand all of you, and in return reveal the only thing worth having. Your soul uncovered, your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the same well from which your laughter springs was once filled with your tears. With these words, Khalil Gibran shatters the lie that joy and sorrow are opposites. He shows us they are not separate worlds, but two shores of the same river, and that river flows through the center of every human soul. We have been taught to chase joy and flee sorrow, to see one as a gift and the other as a burden. But two Gibran, they are both holy, both necessary, both born of the same divine root. Modern life tells us to numb our pain, to mute grief, to bury it beneath noise and distraction. But Gibran calls us to do the reverse, to face sorrow, to sit with it, to listen, because hidden inside it is truth. We only grieve what we have loved. We mourn only what held meaning. And this mourning is not weakness, it is proof. It is a mirror, reflecting our capacity to feel, to care, to be fully alive. The Prophet, he writes, the deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. This is not poetry for beauty's sake. It is spiritual law. See, the heart as a vessel, the suffering you endure does not shatter it, it widens it. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss, these do not shrink the soul, they carve it deeper, they make room for joy yet to come. But we fear that hollowing, we resist it, we brand pain as failure. We see sorrow as a wrong turn instead of a threshold. But Gibran teaches sorrow arrives, not to ruin us, but to ready us, to remind us what is real, because it is only in breaking that we hear what lies at the center, he says. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter draught by which the healer within you cures your sick self. These words are not to blame, but to awaken. We are not powerless sufferers of sorrow. We are participants in our own mending. There is a healer within each of us. Call it the soul, the spirit, the higher self. And that healer does not avoid pain. It prescribes it, not from cruelty, but from love. For there are truths we only meet in hardship panned. So Gibran reclaims pain, he gives it meaning, he grants it dignity. He asks us to face our suffering as students, not as victims, to ask our sorrow, what lesson do you bring? And often sorrow answers softly, I have come to show you the depth of your love. I have come to remind you that you are alive. It is this shift that turns sorrow from punishment into purification, and then joy is no longer the absence of sorrow. It is its bloom, just as a tree roots downward into darkness. Before it can stretch toward the sun, the soul must taste grief. To know the fullness of joy, joy untouched by sorrow, is thin, fleeting, surface level. But joy born from sorrow is deep, lasting, sacred. Gibran does not tell us to romanticize, chase sorrow. He is not romanticizing pain. He is reminding us that if we are willing to feel fully, if we can resist the urge to turn away, then sorrow becomes a doorway, not a tomb. And beyond that doorway lies something far greater than happiness. It is wholeness. It is the soul, wide awake. And listen to how he continues. When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has brought you sorrow that is bringing you joy. This is not simply poetic, it is unsettlingly true. The one whose absence makes you ache is the same whose presence once set your heart alight. The child you miss so deeply is the same whose laughter once filled your home. The dream that left you shattered is the same dream that once gave you purpose. Joy and sorrow are not separate. They are two strands of the same braid. What does this mean for us in life? It means we stop resisting grief. We stop pretending strength when we are broken. We stop hiding our tears, because to grieve is to love, and to love is to be alive. If you feel sorrow, it is proof that you were not numb-proof, that you dared to open your heart. And in a world obsessed with walls and armor, that daring is sacred rebellion. Gibran also offers a quiet warning to those who fear sorrow so deeply they live shallowly. He suggests that when we run from sorrow, we also run from depth. We cling to surface pleasures, constant noise, endless distractions, chasing highs but avoiding the lows, and in doing so, we miss the treasures waiting in the depths. To live, as Gibran calls us to live, is to live wholly, to allow both ache and ecstasy, to let your soul break and mend empty, and fill over and over, not out of drama, but out of truth, because life is not linear. It is circular. We fall, to rise again, we lose, to truly cherish, we suffer, so we may soften, and in that softening, we become more human, more compassionate, more wise. Gibran's vision is not about evasion, it is about embodiment. It does not offer escape from pain, it offers the courage to face it. And in that encounter, something profound occurs. We stop seeing sorrow as an adversary. We begin to see it as the womb of a new joy waiting to take form. And so, if you are hurting now, if grief has hollowed out a space in you, know it is not barren, it is being prepared. Your tears are not weakness, they are cleansing. Your mourning is not failure, it is devotion, proof that your heart still lives, still feels, still loves. Let us not rush to mend, let us not flee the silence sorrow brings. Let us stay in it long enough to hear its quiet truth. For as Gibran writes, the soul walks upon all paths, the soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow. Like a reed it unfolds, like a lotus of endless petals. And perhaps sorrow is simply the unfurling of one such petal, damp with tears and shining with hidden light. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without burden, nor your nights without longing and grief, but when these circle your life, and still you rise above them, bare and unbound. Khalil Gibran's freedom is not the shallow promise of escape. It is not turning from pain, nor discarding every tie. It is not loud or defiant, but a subtler liberation, born not of breaking chains, but of seeing they were illusions all along, in a world where freedom is sold as doing what you please. Gibran whispers, what if true freedom has nothing to do with desire, and everything to do with awareness? To him, freedom is not external, it is inward. You are not free when your calendar clears, or when the crowd praises you. You are free when you no longer need praise. You are free when others' voices no longer dictate your path. You are free when your soul is your compass, unshaken by the world. This is what he calls nakedness, the soul without masks, free of the disguises the world demands. In The Prophet, he cautions against the cages we craft ourselves, he says. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne, erected within you, is destroyed. That is the unsettling truth. Most of what keeps us bound is internal. The tyrant resides in our own minds, in the voice that insists you must become someone rather than recognizing you already are, in the fear that warns you'll be cast aside if you speak your truth, in the quiet shame that murmurs you are not enough. And so we live obeying unseen rulers. Rulers we never chose, rulers we rarely questioned, until one day a poet's whisper dares us to turn inward. The idea that liberation is found not in defiance, but in awareness, is central to Gibran's work. He speaks of the self as a sacred flame, untouched by the storms of circumstance. Yet that flame lies hidden beneath layers of conditioning, guilt, anxiety, and craving. Thus the path to freedom is not conquest, it is undoing, a gentle unwrapping of all that is false, the borrowed names, the second-hand dreams, the endless need to be accepted, admired, significant. These are the veils that dim the light of The true self, he writes, in sand and foam, you may forget with whom you laughed, but you will never forget with whom you wept. And what does this have to do with freedom? Everything, because authenticity is revealed in vulnerability, in those raw, unguarded moments when we are not performing or pretending, but simply present, weeping, grieving, or still in that quiet we glimpse the essence of who we are, and only by knowing that essence can we begin to taste freedom. Gibran sees the self not as a fortress to defend, but as a deep well to draw from. He teaches that freedom is not about becoming, it is about returning to the original spark, to the unclouded awareness that existed before you were told what to be, before obedience earned praise and honesty brought punishment, before you learned to silence your inner voice for approval. Freedom is not earned, it is remembered. It is a turning inward, over and over, until you no longer mistake the world's noise for the song of your soul. But this freedom is not without cost. It demands courage, because to live freely is to let others down. It is to leave behind their expectations, to break ancestral cycles, to say no to what the world celebrates, and yes to what your heart knows is true. And that kind of truth will make you dangerous to systems, illusions, and to those sustained by your compliance. Gibran knew this. He was familiar with exile, with solitude, with being misunderstood, yet he chose truth over comfort. He spoke in symbols because the literal ear had forgotten how to hear. So he reminds us, forget not that the earth delights to feel your bare feet, and the winds long to play with your hair. What image could be freer? A human unarmored, a soul unbound, a life lived not behind walls, but under open sky. He calls us back to nature, not just the earth beneath our feet, but the wildness within the untamed current, always moving toward wholeness, even when we lose sight of it. Hidden within Gibran, freedom is also critique. He does not merely caution against states or systems, but against the inner systems, the rigid beliefs, doctrines, absolutes that harden us, make us feel virtuous, yet divide us. He warns that the most confined soul is not in prison, but locked behind certainty that ends wonder, that seals the heart, that claims I know instead of I wonder. To live freely, in Gibran's sense, is to live unarmored, but not weak, unveiled, but not empty. It is to speak truth even if your voice trembles, to walk apart when the crowd demands obedience, to tell the truth even if no applause comes, and to forgive yourself for every time you didn't. Freedom in its purest form is spiritual. It is realizing that nothing real can be taken from you, that true love cannot be lost, that worth is not measured in followers or possessions, but in presence, in how wholly you can meet this moment without fleeing it, without needing to prove anything. To live freely is to trust life to unfold without control, to meet it with open hands rather than clenched fists. And yes, it will hurt, but it will also be vivid, luminous, alive. Gibran does not offer safety. He offers something greater, sacred exposure, the freedom to be seen, to be known, and still to belong, not to a tribe or a rule book, but to yourself. So ask yourself softly, where do chains still remain? What old stories still bind me? What fears mute my inner voice? And then wonder what it would feel like, even for one breathnet later. Not someday but now, even in grief, even in doubt, even with all our flaws, can I be free? Gibran's answer is yes, not because life has transformed, but because you have, because the prison door was never truly locked, and perhaps the key was never needed at all. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. In this single line, Khalil Gibran shatters the ego's favorite illusion, the idea that truth is something we can claim, control, or wield against others. To Gibran, truth is not an object, not a conclusion, not a banner raised to prove we've conquered confusion. It is alive, an unfolding, a direction that deepens the closer you draw near. And most of all, it is something that already dwells within you, waiting patiently to be heard. This lies at the center of Gibran's vision of self-knowledge. He does not urge us to search for truth in books or in teachers, though both can guide us. He tells us to descend inward to the stillness beneath thought, beyond identity, beyond memory, into the soul's core, where the eternal voice resides. Yet that descent is no easy thing. It is not glamorous, not loud with certainty. It is raw. To truly know yourself is to dismantle all the scaffolding you've built just to survive, the masks you wear, the roles you've been assigned, the person you've pretended to be in the Prophet. Gibran describes the self not as a project to perfect, but as a presence to remember. And that remembrance is not intellectual, it is spiritual. It happens not by figuring yourself out, but by becoming quiet enough to finally hear what has always whispered within. What whispers is no doctrine, no label, no tidy answer. It is a stillness, a light. Some call it intuition, some call it God. He writes, "The significance of man is not in what he attains, but in what he longs to attain." That longing, that sacred hunger, is itself the compass. The yearning to know yourself beneath the noise is not weakness. It is your soul calling, your first prayer. To ignore it, to smother it, is to betray more than yourself. It is to cut yourself off from the source that breathes through all things. For Gibran, God is not elsewhere, not distant or towering above. God is the fire at your center, the breath that spoke your name before names existed. But the modern world teaches us otherwise. It insists that knowing yourself is a matter of collecting facts, charting traits, cataloging wounds. While these can offer insight, Gibran insists that real knowing is not additive, is subtractive. It is not piling on more, but stripping away what is false. The false self thrives on comparison, feeds on validation, dreads silence, clutches identity like armor. The true self does none of these. It simply is. In The Madman, Gibran writes, "You laugh at me because I am different. I laugh at you because you are all the same. This is not ridicule, it is revelation. Conformity is not security. It is erasure, the slow suffocation of the soul beneath the weight of belonging." Thus, to know yourself, in Gibran's eyes, is an act of bravery. To step apart not from arrogance, but from honesty. To turn inward while the world runs outward. To accept being misunderstood because you are no longer willing to live a borrowed life. And how do we begin this descent? Gibran gives no formulas, no 10 steps, because the inner journey is not mechanical, it is mystical. It begins in silence, in solitude, in the refusal to keep running. It begins when you dare to ask, who am I when nothing is required? Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I am still? He writes in Sand and Foam, "I have learned silence from the talkative, toleration from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind." Here he reveals a profound truth. Every moment of your life, every moment of your life, even the absurd, has been pointing you home. Each frustration is a mirror, each resistance a reminder. Every recoil of the soul from falseness is not negativity. It is memory, it is the taste of what's real. To know yourself is to reclaim that memory. It is not a straight road, it is a spiral. You meet yourself, forget, then meet yourself again, each time deeper. And in that remembering, a quiet peace blooms, not the peace that comes from answers, but the peace of presence. You stop needing to impress, to explain, to be understood, because at last you understand yourself, not as an idea, but as a flame, a living spark that requires no justification to exist. Gibran writes, I love you when you bow in your mosque, kneel in your temple, pray in your church, for you and I are sons of one religion, and it is the Spirit. This is the culmination of his teaching, that to know the self is to know the divine. The true self does not grow selfish, it becomes a window. Through it, the light of the eternal spills outward into laughter, into silence, into strangers' faces, into wind moving through leaves. But the tragedy, many never arrive. They are too busy becoming. Too busy. He does not condemn them, he grieves for them, because the treasure they chase in the world outside has always been within them. If only they could pause, if only they could grow still for a moment, they would hear the voice they've been pursuing all their lives, and it would whisper, welcome back. You were never lost, only asleep. So if you are still searching, do not feel ashamed. The journey is not linear, and the self you seek is not hiding, it is waiting for you to stop striving to become and simply be, waiting for you to drop the performance and listen, waiting for you to return to yourself, as if to a home long forgotten. This is Gibran's gift, not advice or instruction, but remembrance. He is not a teacher proclaiming answers. He is a mystic murmuring what your soul has always known. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Once you remember, you cannot forget. You can only keep returning until the seeker and the sought are one. Work is love made visible. With this single line, Khalil Gibran transforms the way we see labor, not as a burden or mere necessity, but as a sacred devotion. In a world where work is often reduced to a transaction, hours traded for wages, Gibran offers another vision. Work as the soul moving through action, presence, and creation. When work is cut off from the heart, it becomes hollow. But when it flows from love, it becomes worship. In the Prophet, he speaks to those who see labor as a curse. You have been told that life is darkness, and in your weariness you echo what was said by the weary. And I say that life is indeed darkness, save when there is urge, and all urge is blind, save when there is knowledge, and all knowledge is vain, save when there is love. Here, he weaves a single truth. Life finds its fullness when we bring love into what we do. Sweeping a floor can be holy. Cooking can be prayer. Even the smallest task can carry grace when done with intention. Gibran isn't urging us to change our jobs. He's urging us to awaken to see that every act can be a canvas upon which the soul paints its light. Yet modern life teaches the opposite. We see work as something to escape, a weight pulling us from ourselves. We count days to the weekend, dream of retirement, wish away our hours. But in doing so, we miss the deeper invitation that even in labor there is grace. Even in exhaustion, there can be light. Gibran tells us, to work with love is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, to build a house with affection, as if your beloved were to dwell there. The sacred is not distant, it lives in our hands, in the tools we hold, in the care we bring to even the simplest task. He is no fool. He knows many live under the weight of duty, without the luxury of choice. Yet even here, he offers power, the power of presence, to see even the smallest act as part of a greater offering. For when you work with awareness, your labor ceases to be mere obligation. It becomes beauty, quiet and unseen but real. He warns, too, against working without love. If you cannot work with joy, but only with distaste, it is better to sit at the temple gates and take alms of those who work gladly. It may sound sharp, but it is mercy, for work done without heart not only drains us, it denies the world the gift our sincerity could have brought. This is his deeper message. The world needs not just our effort, but our essence. Not only our productivity, but our presence. Presence comes not from ambition, but from alignment. When our work matches our truth even in small ways, it nourishes instead of draining us. Purpose, for Gibran, is not about passion projects or grand titles. It is being who you are, fully, in any moment. If you are a poet, be a poet, even in silence. If you are a healer, carry that spirit even unseen. If you are a builder, let integrity shape all you touch. Purpose is not a job description, it is the pulse of your soul in motion. And when life hands you what you never wanted, he does not ask you to deny it. He asks you to meet it with love, to bring awareness, dignity, and gentleness. Even there, even amidst hardship, lies the chance to serve something beyond your own comfort. Because, in Gibran's vision, service is sacred, not because it elevates you, but because it grounds you. To work, then, is not merely to contribute, it is to remember. To remember that we are not separate entities clawing to survive, but interconnected souls shaping existence, breath by breath, act by act, word by word. Each act infused with love builds an unseen sanctuary, a temple no hands have constructed, but which every heart recognizes. So the next time monotony dulls your spirit, ask yourself, can I approach this differently? Can I bring more presence here? Can I turn this ordinary act into an offering? Not to impress, not to be admired, but because beauty done quietly becomes prayer. This is Gibran's wisdom, that labor infused with soul ceases to be mere work, it becomes worship. The sacred is not distant, it's right here, in your touch, in your breath, in the way you pour yourself fully into the present. In such surrender, you stop laboring and start creating. You become the love you were born to make visible. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. With this, Khalil Gibran dismantles our deepest fear, death. He invites us to release the illusion that death is an ending. Instead, it is a passage, emerging just as a river joyfully meets the sea, unaware that what seems like dissolution is truly arrival. So too, says Gibran, does the soul flow toward what we call death, only to rejoin what it has never truly left. To grasp this, we must first loosen our grip on identity. We believe we are our bodies, our names, our stories. But Gibran says we are not the vessel, we are the flame inside it, A flame cannot be extinguished, it only shifts form. You would know the secret of death, he writes, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? Death is not apart from living, it pulses within it, in every act of letting go, in every surrender, in every breath we exhale. When we learn to die in small ways while living, the final letting go will not frighten us. It will feel like home. He urges us to see death not as a thief, but as a silent companion who has walked with us since birth, not to take, but to reveal. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, he says. That silence we flee is not emptiness, is fullness. It is where the soul returns when its earthly story has been told, when it has laughed, wept, healed, and loved enough. Death, then, is not punishment. Is homecoming. And the key to living without fear of it is presence. Live fully now. If you pour your love, truth, and essence into life, death will not frighten you, for nothing will be left unsaid, unloved, or unexpressed. Such a soul dies softly, without resistance, melting into the sun. For what is it to die but to stand, naked in the wind, and melt into the sun? Imagine it, death, as warmth, as light, as the final unmasking. Not an end, but an opening where striving ceases, and simply being is enough. Gibran doesn't deny grief for those left behind, he honors it. Mourning, he reminds us, is the price of love. To weep for the dead is to acknowledge their place in our lives. Yet he whispers that they are not truly gone, and when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. Death is not a severing, but a transformation. When we sit in stillness, we feel it, the presence of those we've lost, in the wind, in dreams, in sudden memories, carrying both ache and beauty. That is the soul reaching across the veil, not as a ghost, but as essence inbound by the limits of flesh. Gibran offers no answers, only reverence. He calls us to meet death as we must meet life, with humility, to bow before its mystery, knowing we cannot grasp eternity with the mind, but that our hearts already live in it, he says. The timeless in you knows life's timelessness. This is the soul, that part of us that has died 1,000 times and will die 1,000 more, yet never fears, because it remembers. Death is only a changing of garments, an actor leaving the stage not into nothingness, but into peace. So let us not wait until death to recall this truth. Let us live now as if death were not a terror, but a teacher. Let us treat each day not as entitlement, but as grace. Let us speak what is true, forgive what lingers, and love without restraint, so that when death comes, it finds us unafraid, not because we have finished everything, but because we have given everything.